There have been some changes at Syncline recently. Some things have been fixed. Some things that needed to be fixed for a long time, really. Yes, indeed, the old Coyote Wall trail system has seen some long-anticipated and much-desired improvements. Fortunately, most of the trail system is just the way you remember it, so not much has really changed, except for, like, the way you're supposed to get to the top of this place. One thing you can get to the top of right now is supporting this channel by navigating to patreon.com/voiceovertrails and signing up as a member right after you like and subscribe. The process of getting to the top of Syncline has always involved riding up Old Ranch Road until arriving at the top of Little Moab and then deciding what to do from there. But now that's changed a little bit. The first part here, that hasn't changed. It's still necessary to climb up Old Ranch Road for the first 800 vertical feet of elevation gain, but after that, things get a little bit different. Of course, I had to pick the foggiest day in December to get this footage because that's just how these things always work out, but I think the necessary details are still visible in this video. I didn't descend Little Moab today, so that won't be the focus of this. I've reviewed that trail before, and it hasn't changed. But astute rememberers out there will recall that there's always been a really god-awful looking fall line track straight up the hill from this point that looks like an unsightly gash across the topsoil, because essentially that's just what it is. Well, the U.S. Forest Service has worked hard over the last 9 months to fix that gash, even going so far as to nail down huge nets of jute to help stabilize the topsoil and work as a visual cue to let folks know they shouldn't be walking on it. We'll see if that works. It was a stupid way up the hill anyway because it was too steep to be useful. Folks just hiked on it because they didn't have other options, and that's what everybody else was doing. In place of that stupid fall line gash, the Forest Service has built a trail that has been dubbed the Coyote Wall Trail that really is a marvel of trail infrastructure design. It now switchbacks across the hill in large, swooping contours that actually do a pretty good job of following the landscape. This isn't a proper climbing trail by mountain biker definitions, as it is just a bit too steep. Overall, it has a 7.3% grade, climbing 1,000 feet over 2.2 miles. But there are sustained grades over 12% in quite a few places. Normally for a climbing trail, we'd like to see a consistent grade of 6% or less, but that's a digression. This wasn't built to be a bike-specific climbing trail. It was built to be a sustainable, multi-user trail to the top of this trail system, and it succeeds at that purpose. I am impressed. Near the top, the trail penetrates the forested summits of the ridgeline as it joins back up with the historic alignment of at least one of the many different pathways that have existed throughout the forest up here for quite some time. And you just keep right on climbing up this section until you get to the top, where the no trespassing sign appears to your right. If you wish, the trail does continue up the old alignment for Atwood Road, from which you can get onto Crybaby, but that trail sucks. It's just an off-camber, hyper-exposed ridge trail that's falling off the cliff face. So just turn around and head back down. This isn't a climbing trail, and that's what makes it at least tolerably fun on the way down. It's not a flow trail by any means. The turns aren't bermed high enough to make it a joyous experience on a bike, and I can't help but think that that is probably by design. I'm guessing the land managers wanted to slow bikers down a little bit when they're coming down this, as on a nice sunny weekend, there are a lot of hikers who, surprisingly, even make it all the way up here. They've probably figured out that the views up here are way better than Dog Mountain for like half the elevation gain. Once again, I digress. You don't have to proceed all the way back to the bottom on this trail, and honestly, you shouldn't. At the apex of one of the biggest, swoopiest curves, you'll encounter this little unnamed trail peeling off to rider's left. Take that trail, and it will lead over to Labyrinth. But first, it passes through an oak forest to some old road grades and then to some gravel roads and almost dumps you in some guy's driveway. But fortunately, there are signs pointing you toward the trail alignment. This is right next to the house you encounter at the top of the trail system from Old Ranch Road if you climb to the top that way. Keep following this down the old road that leads over to the top of Labyrinth. I believe this trail is not, in fact, a trail, and I believe that it passes through private land. Not only that, but the landowner has been working on this road grade, so it no longer looks like a trail, at least to some place, though. right here, where the sign has been knocked over. Labyrinth, or Hidden Trail, whatever name you choose to affix to it, hasn't changed much, if at all, since the last time I reviewed it. It's still very much an advanced level trail that starts out looking kind of intermediate before it gets you into trouble. The reason I'm talking about it again is because there was this pretty dramatic inversion happening the day I rode this, and when I dropped back below the fog line, it got really spooky in the coolest way down here. The trees became silhouettes. The normally wide open vistas were just white out, and it just changed the mood of the whole place. I had to slow down a bit, both because I had poor visibility and the ground was slippery everywhere. Check out the way this hiker just appears out of the fog. His dog too. It was so weird. I loved it. I also didn't see a single other mountain biker the entire time I was up here. It was just so surreal to be all alone in this expansive landscape where I couldn't see more than a few hundred feet in front of me. It was like being in a big silent white bubble, like a video game with a slow refresh rate and a close horizon. The creeks were running high and the waterfalls were full. The bridge across the creek is in the worst shape I've ever seen it, though. So there you have it. There's a new way to ride a nice loop that'll get you a decent 1,600 feet of elevation gain at Syncline. It's more pleasant than Old Ranch Road, and it adds some pretty cool options. I'd like to take this moment to thank all my Patreon supporters, especially my Low Me Goodness level sponsor Charles Kim. I'd also like to thank my Hero Dirt level sponsors Bryce Ulrich, Devin Young, and Edward Lanton. Lots of folks have seen the value of these trail reviews and decided to toss a little support my way and help me keep up the Adobe subscription and help me buy a new GoPro from time to time, and I really do appreciate all of that support. This is, of course, a labor of love, but I'm able to keep doing it because of the support you all provide. Thank you. Now, get out there and go ride your bike.